Hey Rob, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. I first off, it's not every day we get to talk to the wonderful folks over at Pixar. So I have to say thank you. I want to say thank you for all the hard work that you and the teams at Pixar have done to create these incredible worlds because coming back and getting to be inside Riley's mind so soon after Inside Out 2 was awesome.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, yeah. I think whenever we're talking to folks who are a little more behind the scenes, we love to sort of start off with a very specific question, which is, I think the role of an animator can be a few different things in people's minds. What do your friends and family think you do versus what you actually do at Pixar?
Well, my immediate family have a pretty good understanding because they see me doing this for 20 years. But like whenever I talk to my friends, it's pretty common to get questions from them about like, oh, how do you draw all of that? And like I do draw and I like to draw, but like my day to day work is done in the computer and it's not so much drawing. So
Hmm.
I don't know. I tend to try to explain it in terms of like imagining that there's like a digital puppet. And basically, it's like I'm moving a digital puppet and controlling it in 3 dimensions, as opposed to like sitting with a pen or something and drawing. Um, so that usually kind of gives them a pretty good understanding of what it is.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, they
There,
they do they think that you're like how much do they think that you're controlling sort of you're responsible for all the decisions being made versus being part of a team kind of thing? Like I could imagine sometimes that kind of gets lost in people's thinking of what you might be doing.
yeah, it's a very collaborative art form. Like there's hundreds of artists across multiple departments, and whenever we have animation reviews, there's there could be 20 or 30 people sitting in a review which who all kind of have their own ideas and interesting feedback that you kind of have to navigate, like, oh, that sounds like a great idea for this shot, and the directors have their kind of very specific visions of what they want to see too. So you
Hmm.
kind of you kind of take all of that in and try and incorporate it into what you end up making in the end.
Very cool. I mean, speaking of collaboration, we're talking about Dream Productions. We spoke with Jacqueline Simon, Valerie Lapointe, and Austin Madison, and they had mentioned, they directed a couple of these episodes or three of these episodes, and they mentioned how they would often share dreams with each other as part of the inspiration for the story. For yourself, was there any dream sharing between yourself and your fellow animators?
uh to be honest, like I feel like my dreams are kind of lame these days. So like I don't know what that says about me. Maybe I got to I need to like find something more interesting to fill my head with. But what I have found interesting is watching my daughter recently,
Hmm.
as she's growing up, because she's probably a little bit younger than Riley, but she's kind of following that trajectory right now. And like even just the other day, she was mentioning to me that she had a dream that she was feeling kind of embarrassed about. Like I think it was a dream that she was with some friends and then she realized like she was wearing some kind of ugly piece of clothing and she was like mortified by it. And I was like, wow, that it's kind of crazy how closely that mirrors what's happening in the episodes of Dream and stuff. Like you
Hmm.
kind of see the parallels.
Yeah.
So I feel like the show has done like a really good job of taking that kind of stuff and like putting it together in a way that's relatable.
Yeah.
For kids to watch, and also myself as a parent, I can see it and appreciate it.
Well, I think it's a great way for parents to maybe study up a little bit if they've maybe got younger ones who aren't able to explain their dreams just yet. Getting ready for, okay, get ready. You're going to get some of these
Yeah,
sort of
yeah, you're
crazy
gonna have these
scenarios.
these kinds of conversations coming up. I
Yeah.
found Inside Out 2 was kind of similar in that vein, and that it's like a conversation starter for a
Hmm.
lot of like the mental stresses that kids will be going through. So yeah, it's very much in kind of the same wheelhouse in terms of that stuff.
Yeah, man. We're talking about this show after it's already come out on Disney Plus. So I've been given the full go ahead to get into spoilers. You're from
Cool.
Toronto,
Yep.
fellow Canadian here. We got to talk about the incredible Canadian references in the show. What did you
Oh
think of
yeah.
Canadian boyfriend and all those things?
Oh, I loved it.
Yeah.
There's actually like quite a few Canadians on the crew at Pixar because Sheridan here in Oakville. I'm in Burlington myself, like working
Okay.
remotely,
Hmm.
and I'm teaching part time at Sheridan for like one class once a week and stuff. But like Sheridan has like a pretty reputable animation program that's been around for a long time. So there's a lot of talent that comes from here that has gone to work at Pixar. So
Hmm.
you can kind of see like that appreciation for like Canadian culture kind of seeping into their shows, right? They had Turning Red, which was set in Toronto, which came out not long ago, directed by Domey, who's also from Toronto. And then like a lot of the writing in this, like I don't know, myself and a lot of the other animators kind of really appreciated it, and I was so thankful that I got to work on some of the shots with the Canadian boyfriends because I don't know, it kind of feels rewarding.
Absolutely. I
Yeah,
mean, did you have anything to do with the shot of him riding on Timbit the moose? Did you
I
work
did
on that?
not, but I didn't. But my friend Kale Hotchkiss, who is also another very talented animator, and he's working remotely from Alberta right now. So he worked on those shots, and I just remember like all of us laughing, like just laughing out loud, watching it for the first time when he was working on it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was a pretty rewarding experience.
Very cool. Very cool. I love the new lens in this version of the Inside Out world, kind of like the Office or Modern Family
Mm-hmm.
style
Yeah, the
mockumentary.
mockumentary.
Was there a difference in how you went about it? I'm not sure if you worked on some of those scenes specifically with the way the camera was shot, but was there a difference in how you or your fellow animators might have worked on those specific shots?
Um, yeah, maybe a little bit in terms of like when we get the shots in animation, it comes from the layout department before us, and they're in layout. Their job is to kind of like get all the set pieces in place. They kind of have like the first pass at like the cinematography of getting the camera so that it's working to sell all the important stuff we need to see. So on this one, like there were some pretty elaborate camera moves and stuff, right? Like I had a shot where the camera's like following Zenny as he's walking along, and there's like all this action happening around him, and so the camera's having to like kind of catch new like bits of these nuances around him as it tracks through. And the work was shared amongst multiple animators who were doing different parts of the shot. So it became like pretty interesting to try and get everybody on the same page and choreograph that so it all felt like it kind of meshed together in the end. And then, but even once we're done, then it goes on to another department where they do what's known as like camera finaling. So once we kind of have the acting down the way that we're happy with it, they'll take another pass at the camera, and they add like just making sure that everything follows exactly what we like. If we maybe change stuff in the acting and maybe the shot isn't aligned properly, they'll do another pass to make sure that the camera is kind of hitting all the right spots, and then you'll get that nice bit of like shakiness if they need to add it here or there, give it that nuance of feeling like it's handheld.
Yeah, yeah, and it definitely it came across. I mean, I think
Yeah.
the other thing that I have to give you and the team kudos for is you mentioned the acting, right? The animation of these sort of kind of like jelly bean people. I want to commend, the character of Jean is on a
Mm.
golf cart in one moment talking to Paula, and she's kind of driving away slowly and sort of doing like a little this as she's driving away, and it was Maya Rudolph. Like it was Maya Rudolph right there. How do you and your teams? I know a lot of that has to do with the vocal performance, but how do you manage to capture the soul and essence of a person and make it come through in like a jelly bean? Like it's just crazy.
um, yeah, there's a lot of things that you can pull from. I think that shot you mentioned may have also been my friend Kale, who's in Alberta, who did that one, but I could be wrong. But I spent quite a bit of time actually working on Jean. I had some Jean shots early on in like I think one of the first shots I did was like a sequence of Jean acting when she's sitting behind the desk, like
Mhm.
in her big office. And they were really happy with the way that those shots came out. Like they kind of felt like that was one of the moments that they picked up on as saying like this kind of is really getting in on what we want Gene to be through the show. So based on that, I was like, okay, I think I've got a pretty good handle on this. And they gave me a bunch of more Gene shots when she's acting like really kind of over the top. And so the further I got into it, the more I kind of was able to delve into that, and I felt like I don't know, it was pretty rewarding for me to kind of get those Gene shots. I really like working on her. And
Yeah,
that's my
yeah.
actually that's my second time animating Maya Rudolph because I did her on a previous production at another studio. So I'm always happy to animate her voice. She has such a great voice for animation.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
awesome, man.
yeah, but I mean, we look at footage of her reading her lines, and also footage of her from some of her other shows that she's done. So you can use that as a point of reference to kind of figure out what works for her and what doesn't. But then you also have to take that and combine it with, like, well, this is Maya Rudolph, but this is Jean, right? So there's the art of Jean, what the directors want to see out of her. So you kind of take those two things and put them together to try and get something that works.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. And you know, everything you're describing just has so much to do with collaboration. You've said the word collaboration a few times. Whenever we
Mm-hmm.
talk to folks from Pixar, that's the word that comes up. I kind of want to, you know, kind of wrap on a question of, you know, Pixar is seen as a studio with such a vibrant culture, and they're so far reaching. For yourself as an individual, what do you find it is about Pixar that makes working there so special?
Um, well, for me, like growing up and like going to school as an animator, and then working in the industry, like mostly I've worked around the local Toronto industry. Um, I did a stint at Sony in California years ago, and then came back, but mostly I've been in Toronto.
Hmm.
And I don't know if it's the same like everywhere else, but like I know that amongst the Toronto community, Pixar is like really kind of seen as one of the trendsetters, and like it's like the high bar of kind of setting the standards for what everybody wants to aspire to, right? Like we look to them as the studio who are kind of like they're doing it right. They're keeping artists happy, giving artists everything that they need to kind of output the best work that they can. So when I finally had when I had a chance to start working with them on starting around Lightyear, it was really cool to kind of get into that environment and see it from the inside. And like for me, it was like um, confirmation that like all the stuff that I'd been hearing from other people was like, this is true. Like this is the way that it should work, and I just love being a part of it.
That's
Um,
rad. That's rad
yeah,
when your dreams come true and they're exactly
yeah.
what you
Because you
might
never
have
know, right?
dreamed
It could
about.
be one of those things where it's like you think you build it up in your head, right? And then you go
Yeah.
there and you're like, oh, maybe it's not all it was set out to be. But for me, it's been like nothing but a positive experience the entire time.
Awesome, man. Well, Rob, thank you so much for your time. You know, I'm also recognizing the Nine poster behind
Oh
you.
yeah,
Shout out to your work on Nine. Such a I think that movie goes under way too many people's radars. So
yeah,
that's awesome,
yeah.
man.
That goes like way back.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, very cool, man. Dude, thank you so much, and have a happy holidays. And I
you
hope to
too.
chat with you again someday in the future on another Pixar project.
Great. Thanks so much for having me on.
Awesome, man. Cheers.